Hello, test, 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 test. Good morning, everybody. Hey, good morning. Good morning, everybody. We do have enough members to get the hearing started this morning. The sponsor of the bill is essentially on his way now, so we want to kind of leave a little liberty to the sponsor of the bill before we officially start today. But I do want to thank everybody for being here, being on time. This is a very important conversation. This is something that we on the city government side are really concerned about, and we're looking forward to today's conversation. So it's about a minute or so. We'll get started. All right, thank you, everybody. Good morning, everybody. Today's date is Thursday, July 8th, 2024. This is the Committee on Education. Again, I want to thank everybody for being here. Thank folks for being concerned about this important issue, and we're ready to get started. I note that the hour has come and a quorum of the committee is present. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the roll of members who are here in order to determine a quorum?
Councilmember Ahmad. Councilmember Gautier.
Present.
Councilmember Phillips.
Present.
Councilmember Chair Thomas.
Present.
Thank you, Chairman. We have a quorum.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Throughout the course of today, we'll hear a lot of comments and public testimony. There'll be other members that'll be joining us pretty soon, and when they come, we want to kind of give them the liberty to be able to put any comments on the record that they feel is important based on today's conversation and today's hearing. A quorum of the committee is present, and the hearing is now called to order. This is the public hearing of the committee on Education regarding Resolution Number 240601. Mr. Clerk, will you please read the title of the resolution?
Resolution number 240601, authorizing the Committee on Education to hold hearings to examine the sudden closing of the University of the Arts, UArts, the impact this sudden closing will have on the Philadelphia higher education system, and most importantly, the negative impacts on the current student body and staff and alumni.
Thank you. Does any members of the committee wish to make comments before we get started? Hearing none, Mr. Clerk, will you please call the first witness that we have to testify on resolution number 240601?
Yes, can we please have Deborah Carrera and Val Gay?
Thank you so much. Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning, Chair Thomas and members of the Education Committee. I'm Dr. Deborah Carrera, Chief Education Officer for the City of Philadelphia. Thank you for the opportunity to testify on Resolution 240601, which authorizes the Committee of Education to hold hearings to examine the sudden closure of the University of the Arts. I am here today to express my deep concern and disappointment regarding the sudden and unexpected closure of the University of the Arts of Philadelphia. The University of the Arts has been a cornerstone of our city's cultural and educational landscape. For years, it has nurtured and developed the talents of countless students, providing them with the skills and opportunities to pursue their passions in the arts. It has been a place where creativity flourished, young artists found their voice, and a vibrant community came together to celebrate the richness of artistic expression. However, the abrupt decision to close the university without prior notice or consultation with the city, students, faculty, and staff left many in shock and uncertainty. This action disrupted not only the lives of students who invested time, effort, and resources into their education, but also the faculty and impacted staff who have dedicated themselves to fostering the next generation of artists. The lack of transparency and communication surrounding this decision was deeply troubling. As city officials, we should have been informed and involved in the decision that would have profound implications for our city's cultural and educational fabric. The sudden closure raised many questions. What led to this decision, and why was it made without warning? What provisions were made for the students without a place to continue their studies? How will faculty and staff be supported during this transition? And what would happen to the university's facilities and resources? After learning of this closure and understanding the tremendous impact on students and families across the city, the mayor set out to ensure that the governor's office and all Philadelphia elected officials, including those like Councilmember Squilla, Representative Ben Waxman, and Senator Hughes, who were receiving direct outreach from families, would share information and work together. On Sunday, June 2nd, Mayor Sherrell Parker convened various stakeholders to attend a virtual meeting with the University of the Arts President, Dr. Carrie Walk, and the Chair of the University of the Arts Board of Trustees, Judson A. Aaron. In attendance were lobbying firm Bellevue Strategies and federal, state, and local government officials. During the call, Dr. Walk informed those in attendance that the university would be closing its doors on Friday, June 7th. Dr. Walk shared that the university could not operate as an institution for financial reasons. The University of the Arts informed the Middle State Commission on Higher Education Coalition, and the university lost its accreditation. Dr. Walk shared a town hall for students and staff was scheduled for Monday, June 3rd. Mayor Parker requested from the university representatives the following: a timeline sequence of events, a plan for students, faculty, and staff, a timeline for a teach-out plan, information about the endowment, the plan concerning the multiple facilities. She had clear goals to ensure students had a place to continue their studies, preferably in Philadelphia, to ensure that staff were paid and contractual obligations met, and to ensure that all students had access to transcripts and personal property. On Monday, June 3rd, the University of the Arts canceled the town hall meeting. On Monday, June 3rd, the Mayor's Office and the Mayor's Office of Education met with Bellevue Strategies, the lobbying firm for the University of the Arts, to follow up on the Mayor's request. The Mayor's Office asked for audited financial statements, 3 years of budget, and Fitch's bond rating report. Our intent was to understand what precipitated this sudden action and to determine the college's current financial status. On Tuesday, June 4th, the Mayor's Office of Education was made aware of Dr. Walk's resignation. We also learned that the University of the Arts Board brought in a national higher education consulting firm to manage the transition and wind-down process. On Wednesday, June 5th, the Mayor's Office of Education met with representatives from Alvarez and Marcel. Janelle Beaver shared that she would focus on people, students, and staff, and Jim Grady would focus on finances. The Mayor's Office of Education emphasized the urgency of communicating with students and employees. The team gave no answers about the causes of the closure and promised a plan and regular communication with the Mayor's Office and other stakeholders. On Wednesday, June 5th, city officials organized a meeting with Alvarez and Marcel to specifically discuss the University of the Arts' financial condition. Attendees included Finance Director Rob DeBow, the Governor's Office, appropriations staff from the House and Senate, City Council, and other local officials. During the meeting, representatives from Alvarez and Marcel were not forthcoming about the college's actions. They focused on what lay ahead, the school closure, and ensuring students transition to schools as identified in the Teach-Out Plan. The university provided Fitch's bond rating report, 3 years of budget, and audited financial statements. On Thursday, June 6th, a representative from Bellevue Strategies notified the mayor of Bellevue's resignation from the University of the Arts. On Friday, June 7th, the University of the Arts closed. On Monday, June 10th, a call center went live to support the University of the Arts students. Alvarez and Marcel informed the Mayor's Office of Education that Joe Hill from Cozen O'Connor would provide technical support to the city. On Friday, June 14th, the Middle State Commission on Higher Education had a virtual town hall meeting with students and their families. Representatives from the Pennsylvania Department of Education and FIA were also in attendance. The Middle State's representatives made clear they were not aware of the closure prior to the announcement, and the decertification was not the cause of the school's closure. During the event, many students expressed frustration and disappointment with how the university failed to communicate any problems and neglected to have any transition period to allow an orderly wind down. Students also shared their disbelief that the university decided to close without engaging students or their families. The Middle States Commission on Higher Education shared the teach-out agreements with Moore, Drexel, Temple, Montclair State College in New Jersey, Point Park and New School University in New York, and Arcadia University. The Middle Schools Commission on Higher Education worked on additional teach-out plan agreements with Harcum College, Five Towns, Rowan University, and Alfred University. They indicated other transfer opportunities from over 40 institutions who didn't have an agreement at that time. On Monday, June 17th, the Pennsylvania House Majority Policy Committee held a policy hearing on the University of the Arts' June 7th closure. On Tuesday, June 18th, University of the Arts held its first town hall meeting. The Mayor's Office of Education conversed daily with Joe Hill from Cozen O'Connor on support for students needing additional credits for graduation, call center data, housing for students living on campus, and employees. During the week of June 10th, the university posted an informational website, uarts.zendesk.com, a frequently asked questions document with information on transcripts and diplomas, tuition reimbursement, transferring to other institutions, and campus and electronic system access. Throughout these check-ins, no further information was provided on what caused the closure of the University of the Arts. On Friday, July 19th, University of the Arts declared bankruptcy. Since the closure of University of the Arts, I've been in communication with Joe Hill from Cozen O'Connor. The impact of this closure extends beyond the immediate university community. The University of the Arts has been a cultural hub, hosting events, exhibitions, and performances enriching our city. Its sudden absence leaves a void in Philadelphia's cultural landscape, affecting not only the students and staff, but also the broader community that benefits from the university's contributions. Thank you.
Good morning, members of the committee, Chair Thomas in his absence. I'm Val Gay, Chief Cultural Officer for Philadelphia and leader of Creative Philadelphia, formerly called the Office of Arts, Culture, and the Creative Economy. I'm pleased that Mural Arts is now part of our portfolio, fostering new collaborations. As the first Chief Cultural Officer to sit on the Mayor's Cabinet, I am committed to integrating arts and culture into our city's growth and prosperity as we all work towards making Philly the safest, cleanest, greenest, biggest city in the country. I am also an alumna of the University of the Arts, where I earned a Bachelor of Music in Voice Performance. Speaking on behalf of Mayor Sherelle Parker at UArts' 146th commencement on May 16, 2024, I was moved by President Kerry Walk's announcement of a historic partnership with Mural Arts and her assurance to young creatives about their future careers. This was music to my ears, as one of my chief goals is to work hard to eradicate the starving artist narrative in Philadelphia. Her words continue to reverberate in my ears, and no doubt in the ears of the other 2,000 plus people present to hear her that day, which is for me just one of the reasons the unprecedented closing of UArts has had a devastating emotional as well as financial impact on the community, faculty, staff, students, and associated businesses. I've heard from many distressed individuals, including recent graduates questioning their degree's value, and current students struggling to rebuild their futures. Former faculty and staff are facing unexpected job losses, and many in the arts and culture sector are offering support where they can, hiring buskers on the streets, performers at events, design and other digital services, and more. Sadly, it is not enough. UArts' sudden closure has left a chasm in our community. This crisis highlights our sector's fragility and the urgent need for dedicated funding. I look forward to working together to strengthen our infrastructure and prevent such losses in the future. Thank you, Councilman Squilla, for inviting me to speak at this hearing, and I look forward to answering the committee's questions.
Thank you for your testimony. I want to note for the record that we've been joined by Councilmember Lozada, Councilmember Brooks, as well as the sponsor of the bill, Councilmember Squilla. I do want to take a moment to allow the sponsor of the bill to give any remarks or ask any questions that he may have for the administration.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman, and thank all our colleagues for being here on a summer day to have this important hearing. Obviously, when everybody first heard of the closure of University of the Arts, it was a shock. And I think the part of the problem is that it was a shock. Nobody knew it was coming. And so there's so many questions that are left out there, and I really appreciate the administration and the mayor's office stepping up, and the Office of Education to try to work through the challenges that were presented to us under nothing that we had done, but understanding the challenges of the students of the University of the Arts, the staff of the University of the Arts, the alumni from the University of the Arts, the businesses, the Avenue of the Arts, and what it means to our city to have that cultural hub on the Avenue of the Arts. The vibrancy that it brings to our South Broad Street corridor with the students that are there, that are living in the area, that are frequenting our stores and businesses, and what it means to us. So when we look at this thing, it is actually even bigger than, just the closing of a school. And it means so much to the city of Philadelphia, and the administration has been really, really helpful in trying to understand what happened, but also being helpful in where do we go from here? How do we try to fix this? What are our goals in the future? And everything that we have done, and we heard, from the school district, we heard from some of the other partners who have been accepting some of the students and what their challenges are, trying to make sure that people who pay tuition would keep the same tuition rates as they go and transfer. And there's going to be the district attorney's office who's involved, right? There is an investigation ongoing in this, and I'm sure over time we're going to find out what happened and why it happened. But I think the goal right now is to make sure we don't make it worse, right? That, nobody's unilaterally going to be able to sell off properties and do things without oversight, and the Attorney General has assured us that there are certain guidelines that they have to follow. But also, how do we then still continue to keep that as a cultural hub, whether it's a merger with another university or whatever it was? My question to the administration is, because you guys have been great on this, as we progress through those, if there is an eventual merger, if these schools are eventually, if this school is eventually still intact, so people could use these as a facility, but maybe merge with another university, and they have to change hands. You can't do this, but would you be able to bring this back to the administration and say, if there were challenges, if there was transfer of properties, can we as a city help and offset maybe a transfer tax or something else that would go along with that, so that we could do whatever we need to do to make sure anything that comes up into the future, we are there to help.
Rob DeVoe is here. I'm going to have him to come up because he can definitely speak to that question that you're asking.
Okay, thank you.
Morning, my name's Rob Dubo. I'm the city's finance director. Yes, we would be willing to have discussions about ways we could help. Obviously, without knowing the specifics, can't commit to anything, but would definitely be willing to have discussions.
Yeah, I don't think we're going to have any specifics at this point.
Understood, yes.
There's still conversations ongoing, but just the administration has been great, and they've been out in front understanding the heartbreak and the concerns of what had happened, to the students, to the staff, to the school in general. But we as a city too have an obligation to try to help, right? And it's as the school, as the Avenue of the Arts, what it means to us as a city. I think knowing that we'll have those conversations, do whatever we can do, is also helpful, because the state is looking also to help out, right? And other folks, and I think it's an all hands on deck type timing where we need to make sure that this great cultural hub and institution that we had, if it had to close, can still stay alive, and what it means for the people, the alumni who had degrees from the University of the Arts, right? What does it mean for students who had applied and now transferred to other schools? These are all things that we're not going to be able to answer today in this hearing, but it's good to know that the administration is still very much engaged in this process, has been engaged since the start, has led the meetings, and we were on several meetings with the administration and before the president resigned, and asking all those hard questions, why, if, what happened. But I think the goal right now is, where do we go from here, right? How do we make sure that we try to sustain what we had in the best possible way, whatever that may be, and look at look for answers, look for suggestions, look for ways, if it is a merger, that we still could keep these hubs available and active, and do the best we can as a city to proactively engage that. And then as the investigations play out and what happened, for why that happened in such short time without anybody knowing, that, we're not going to get that answer today either, but, that will come through at probably a longer process. But we got to make sure we protect the students, the staff, and the alumni, and everybody associated with that challenge. So if you're willing to have those conversations, it would be great to continue those talks with the other universities that are interested. And, there's a lot of other things associated with it. There's people have to be made whole, right? Staffing has to be made whole. All those things have to happen. And we just want to make sure, and I know that from all the concerns and complaints I received, people want to make sure that we are watching. We are a part of that, right? And people aren't going to willy-nilly just try to sell off assets and do something without anybody overseeing that. So I think if people could hear, yes, the city is still actively involved. Obviously, we don't have control over private property, but working with the Attorney General's office and others, if they could hear those things, I think it gives a little more confidence that they're not going to do additional damage from the damage that was already done.
And we definitely are still involved and want to stay involved, because we agree with everything you said about the importance of the institution and making sure that things don't get worse.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, council member. Chair recognizes council member Ahmad.
For your testimony. Good morning, everyone. Just picking up what my colleague, Council Member Squilla, just said about understanding what exactly happened and how there were no eyes on it. So I don't know if you're the right panel to explain this, but was there any ex officio participation on the board of UArts from the city or the state? Do you know that? So that's one. And the second piece is, where are all the board members? They were all there watching this happen. So have they, I don't know, I know there's a legal arm to this, the state attorney general and our district attorney. I just want to make sure that those are the questions, the accountability and the transparency that needs to happen. That's why we have a board, right? So where are they? Who are they? And did we, meaning government, have any representation there? And this didn't happen overnight. Something happened, right? And we need to get the bottom of it. So we can't go forward if we don't know what happened to, avoid what's going to happen in the future. So just wanted to know if you
and I
had
think,
any insight on that.
Yes, thank you, Council Member Ahmad. So we found out when everyone else found out. We were made aware when everyone was made aware.
So there's no board participation?
There was a board president.
No, from the city or state government, there was no board member? So, for example, we have other institutions where we have, from the city, somebody on the board. I'm on the...
Oh, was there someone from the city on the board? No.
No, that's...
No,
So
I'm
this
sorry.
is one of the
I didn't hear
things
that part.
I would love to look at to see. We are board members as ex officios on many institutions in our city, whether we own it or even if we don't, right? So, for example, the Franklin Institute, I'm on the board of that. So I'm at the board meeting, I'm following what's happening, we get the report, so that would have given us an inkling. So I would like,
Sure.
going forward, to see all our major institutions should have participation from us. This happened with the whole Hahnemann closing. We need to be proactive, and all of us, not just the administration, council as well, to see what are the assets in our city and how are we safeguarding them.
I agree.
This is an asset in our city, and this has been a huge impact to our young people who have been giving our city a future-looking perspective. This is how we globalize our city. It's critical that we watch our assets. And so that would be something going forward, that we should do an analysis of all institutions in our city, not just UArts, for future issues to see how much engagement do we have and how are we following their fiduciary path as well as the other issues that impact our cities. So thank you.
Noted.
Say that there is a list, and we are on many of the cultural assets, I would say, the boards as ex officios. And so I myself sit on several of them. Well, I haven't joined, the fiscal year just started, but to your point, I think that having an audit of everything to see what's missing, and perhaps if an audit had been done previously, we would have seen that perhaps there was something missing. But this is a great opportunity for us to take a step back, look at the entire slate, and see what needs to be, see what needs to be, who needs to be on which board.
Yeah, I mean, and this is not just for our creative economic space.
Agreed,
This is
yes.
for all our spaces to see, and this is a wake-up call for us.
Agreed.
So, yeah, thank you for that, and I think a oversight analysis, doing an audit, and then putting people in the right places would at least not have us in this darkness about what happened, right?
Right.
But I would not let those board members off the hook. They need to be accountable, and I don't know, maybe they are, I just don't know that information, but we should not just say just because the president resigned, there's no other access to this information. Somebody knows something. So I think we need to be a bit of a dog with the bone on this and support and make sure our law enforcement arm of what's doing need to keep us apprised, as well as keeping our community who's been impacted apprised of what is going on. So thank you very much.
Before I recognize Councilmember Phillips, I just want to note for the record that we have 6 panels scheduled to testify here today with over 20 people that we really want to hear from, and we want to be respectful of folks' time. So I'm going to ask members of the committee to kind of limit some of our questions and comments so we can make sure that we hear from every single person who actually got here early today to testify, to communicate their concerns, and also to offer solutions. Chair recognizes Councilmember Phillips.
Thank you, Chairman Thomas. I will respect that. I agree in terms of limiting our comments. I was thinking along the lines of Councilwoman Nina Ahmad this entire time. What I was going to add to the conversation was slightly different than what she was saying, but I'm in total agreement. It's the idea that does the city currently have frequent meetings to understand the financial state of its universities and colleges? Is that in place currently? Okay, so it's not. And I think that given the state of higher education, not to say something, what was done in the past wasn't, but given the state of higher education today where we see tons of closures, one of the new innovative things that we can do is begin to have more frequent meetings with our universities and colleges to kind of have a better understanding of where they are financially and other things that are going on at that particular school, those schools, because, as the administration has pointed out, this was, the lack of transparency and communication, was troubling, right? And I think that for us to avoid that going into the future of our city, we have to find ways to begin to have better transparency. So hopefully that could be one of the resolutions that comes out of this hearing today.
Thank you, Councilmember Phillips. I think that I agree with everything that our colleagues were saying, and I just want to add to the fact that when these institutions close, this is wage tax revenue that we're not collecting as well too, and we all seen our 5-year projections, and we know we need every dollar that's possible. Are there any other questions for members of this committee for this particular panel? Hearing none, I want to say thank you all for being here. Thank you for your due diligence as it relates to this issue, and we appreciate the continued effort. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the next panel to come testify today?
Yes, I would like to apologize ahead of time in case I butcher anyone's names. Can we please have David Benjamin Di Cristofaro, David Timothy, and Frank Machos?
Good morning. Please start by stating your name for the record, and then you may begin with your testimony. For the members of this particular panel, we'll allow you to provide your testimony consecutively, and then after that, we'll open it up for questions from members of the committee. You may begin.
David DeCristofaro, co-chair of the University of the Arts Alumni Council and University of the Arts Joint Committee.
My name is David Timoney. I'm a graduate of the University of the Arts in 97, 98. I'm currently a professor in Doylestown, Pennsylvania.
If it's okay, unfortunately my time here is short, but I'm honored to be back here, and I'd like to share a statement just on behalf of the Joint Committee. First of all, thank you, Council, for having us, and thank you, Councilman Skula, for facilitating this conversation. I just flew here on a red-eye and came right here from the airport, so if it looks like I'm a guide for getting over mountains, perhaps in a way that I am. It's doing that got me to UArts in the first place, in many ways. Honored to be back here, and UArts means a lot to us, obviously, and to Philadelphia. It's an understatement, right? And you'd be hard-pressed to find a more passionate group in Philly than our arts community. It's basically them and Eagles fans, right? Go Birds. While at UArts, I got to go to Capitol Hill with the Recording Academy and advocate for changes in copyright law and music that got passed. That changed the way that copyright's approached in music all across the nation forever. I got to lead meetings while I was still a student with members of Congress here locally at their offices. Last time I was here in these chambers, it was to receive a citation of recognition from the city for my work on the creative economy and initiatives with City Councilman David O. while I was still a student. My first job while I was a student was right outside in Dilworth Park when they opened after the remodel, working with Center City District, coordinating their summer concert series, Live at Lunch. At UArts, I was a founding member of our student government, Students for Creative Action. That's what we're doing now. We're taking creative action and trying to find solutions. Could I have done all that at Temple and Drexel? They're fine institutions, maybe a little bit. But what I can tell you is that with the small class sizes, the dedicated staff, education, and mentorship that UArts provided, that taught and shaped me into the person that could reach those heights and that was capable of doing those things, and their willingness to take a chance on me, I couldn't have found that anywhere else. The strength of dedicated development for students looking to hone their crafts and disciplines to their potential provides a model for how UArts could live on in the future. Last time Val Gay and I spoke, we gave the alumni addresses at the university's commencement ceremonies for graduation. A few weeks before that, I held my little sister's hand for the last time while she struggled to breathe for an hour and a half and lost her to cancer. A few weeks after that, my university that I love, that made all those things possible for me and that's impacted my life every day in the years since graduation, suddenly closed due to this crisis. Sometimes injustice happens, and sometimes things happen that are beyond our control. As big as this feels to us, there's bigger things in life and bigger things happening in the world. This just happens to also be something that's a big deal to us. And I hope sharing why puts that into perspective, just like those bigger things in life and in the world puts things into perspective for us too. What we've chosen to do about it is respond as best we can. It's a sensitive situation with a lot of moving parts, especially for those who are employed by a university that now doesn't have the money to pay them, right? And where restitution's now driving liquidation. This is a very intrepid situation. We've moved quickly to form a joint committee right away between our co-chairs from the Alumni Council and our chair from the Family and Student Council, David Schoner. And we've been info gathering, learning, and streamlining communications with city and state offices. We've learned that the suddenness of this didn't allow for the advance warning we all would want. But there are answers to some of the questions that I think by this time we deserve. And I say that without any entitlement, nothing but humility and gratitude for everything that UArts has provided me with, and the city of Philadelphia. We're in the process of collecting notes from the experts and those with insights in our UArts network and collaborative circle that we've been consulting with and talking to, that I'll be submitting in a report to Councilman Squilla, to your council, as well as to the offices of Representative Waxman and Senator Salvo and the Attorney General, who we've all been in touch with and hope to aid in whatever process might help us learn the answers to those questions. We've also learned that solutions for reopening are, generally speaking, and we'll get into more detail, but a form of merger or acquisition by an accredited institution with the overhead to overcome whatever this mystery deficit would be, speaking hypotheticals now, or a new iteration of the school that could be reopened with new accreditation in several years' time. Still, outstanding questions remain, and that's problematic to say the least, and it's caused a lot of stress and strain and pain in our community. Those are pretty straightforward. We know what they are, but what is this mystery $50 million deficit? That's so bad that they had to close our school and still haven't been able to tell us what it is. That's the big one, right? Why weren't the records and resources requested by Middle States Commission provided to them by the accreditation loss deadline? A school should have those on hand, right? And a few days is a good lead time to be able to gather and submit those. These are just healthy questions that we feel we could use some healthy answers to. Why did a few board members gather to vote to follow through with the closure? They're not required to vote on something like that. They can, but they're not required to. Why did nobody explore these other options and work together with the people available to explore that? Again, going back to what's this mystery deficit that was so insurmountable that they didn't choose to go those routes? Help us understand. That's our appeal to the folks involved. Just help us understand. Tell us how we can help. Those are some of the questions we're hoping will be answered in this process. No one wins in a blame game. Our goals are answers and solutions, and yes, accountability and oversight for those that are currently managing UArts. Right now, there is none. Fortunately, we've had folks like Representative Waxman that have been very proactive, Middle States Commission, who has done something that I'm pretty sure no office like them has ever done in history in terms of walking through this process to make sure that our students were taken care of. We cannot express the gratitude to Councilman Squilla, to them, the different offices that have offered to help and have gotten involved. To our community, please reach out and join us in the pursuit of these solutions. Anything that will help, any information that will help. If you just want to help, please reach out and join us. This is the ultimate UArts group project. Let's save our school. Thank you, and thank you for having me. If you've no objection, I'll leave you in the capable hands of David Tinney. And thank you again for the honor of being here. Thank you.
Thank you. I think he dropped something.
Good morning. Thank you for your opportunity to speak with you about my experiences as a UArts recruit, student, and alumnus. My full testimony has been submitted for the record, and I'll be presenting a shortened version, so I'm going to talk fast. I'm easy to reach outside of this session. My sister attended UArts a year ahead of me, and because of that, I visited campus and the dorms several times. I met other students and attended events. I knew this was the place for me, Broad Street, the vibrancy of the city, and a school filled with individuals as committed to their art and craft as I was. I only applied to one university, and I was accepted. Imagine me, a 17-year-old kid from Delco, being accepted to my dream school for both undergraduate and graduate study. That was 35 years ago. While at UArts, I got what I call the full experience. I lived in the Furness dorms, where I made lifelong friends. I lived on Rodman Street, where I rented from a notorious known slumlord just like everybody else. I ate at Paul's Pizza and had the best turkey burgers at H.A. Winston's. I drank gallons of coffee at the last drop. I made friends with Fergie at McGlinchey's, and as far as I know, my picture's still on the wall at Locust Rendezvous from some strange, lonely New Year's Eve with my housemates. I found the joy of playing music for dance, and I regularly played with Group Motion at the improv sessions in Philly and later toured with him to Arizona. My ensemble premiered works by well-known avant-garde composers. My band played Dobbs, Khyber Pass, Revival, and even in the Great Hall at UArts. I spoke on a panel at the Philadelphia Music Conference. I was the opening act for Mikey Wild and The Mess. All experiences that reinforced that I'd found my place. I volunteered in an after-school program down on 16th and Bainbridge, helping kids with their homework and their literacy skills. And I've wanted to be a teacher since first grade when I met Miss Berland. And that's a separate story about the influence one person can make. I completed my practicum at Durham Elementary, which no longer exists, Kappa, and many other mainstays of the school district. I did my student teaching at University City High School, and that was that experience that spurred my commitment to staying here. I worked at Tower Records Classical Annex, and I worked for the Welcome Mat right when it became the Philadelphia Weekly. And after graduation, I took a job at Girard College, where I worked for 15 years as a music teacher, and then later transitioned to being a learning specialist. Since 2014, I've been the chair of education at Delaware Valley University, where I'm a full professor with tenure. I've spent a lifetime in education, and I have a clear perspective from which to speak to you today. But what I want you to understand, first and foremost, and maybe most importantly, is that I moved to Philly from Delco in August of 1990, and I never left. A first-generation college student, the son of a hairdresser and a shipyard electrician. Some of you could probably calculate the economic and social impact of that move, and I'm just one of those people. Every excuse that's been provided by the University of the Arts, exclusively through their representatives, is not nearly enough in part or whole to warrant the closure of a university. Enrollment, rising costs, asset and debt management, the upward creep of the discount rate, these are common problems. Nothing new or remarkable. These are issues that you and I deal with on a regular basis, but none of us came to work today to throw in the towel. It's part of the job we do, and we do it because we're committed to the success of those around us and those who depend on us. This is exactly why talk of malfeasance and criminality at UNArts continues to surface in the void of actionable information. The former president and board of the university demonstrated how little they understand and the diminutive beliefs they hold about the arts when they assumed that shutting down this institution was a simple administrative decision. You cannot close the arts. Council members, this isn't a closure and it's abandonment, a cowardly dereliction of duty, a neglectful and disrespectful disregard for its own history and for the city that has always loved it back. The incompetence at the cabinet level and the cowardice at the board level have failed to satisfy the key requirements of their positions: protect the mission and protect the financial viability of the institution. It's shameful to consider that not a single individual was willing to take a stand for the university and its constituents then, but we're here to take that stand now. I echo the sentiments of one of your own council members who urged us to stop speaking about the University of the Arts in the past tense. This institution is still open, but while we are here conducting a premature autopsy, opportunists are picking at the bones and scheming on how they can profit in this convoluted situation. For tuition-dependent institutions like UArts, time is of the essence. The longer it remains shuttered, the more pressing these issues become. I request that in the interest of time, we focus on what's most important, the current and future students of the University of the Arts. Let us set aside investigations and blame for the moment in order to focus on opening the doors and planning for the next class to enter those halls, dorms, and studios. I would like to recommend the appointment of an interim board and an interim leadership panel who can return to those offices and start solving the problems of the institution. Give us the keys so that competent and inspired problem solvers may take the opportunity to make this right. The city deserves it, the citizens deserve it, and students past, present, and futures deserve it. Let us get on with the good work of reopening UArts and getting this deserving institution on its feet. There's plenty of work to do, and guess what? We have lots of help, and I thank you.
Thank you for your testimony. Are there any questions from members of this committee for this particular panel? Hearing none, thank you for your recommendations, thank you for your experience, and thank you for taking time to share that all with us today. Very much appreciated. Mr. Clerk, will you please call the next panel to come testify before us today?
Can we please have Zoe Hollander, Bryn Smith, Brittany Mallon, and Tony Aquilini?
Good morning. Please start by stating your name for the record. Also, I know that there are folks who've never testified in city council before. It's pretty easy. It's like riding a bike. The only thing that I would ask is that you make sure that you speak into the mic because there are several of you, and we need to make sure that everybody on our tech team can hear everything that you're saying. So make sure you speak into the mic so we can hear you as you testify. You may state your name, begin with your testimony. We'll allow all of you to testify consecutively. Then we'll open it up to the committee for questions.
My name is Brittany Mallon.
My name is Bryn Smith.
My name is Zoe Hollander. Hello, I'm Zoe Hollander, and I was a rising senior musical theater major at the former University of the Arts. Thank you for having me here today. In March of 2021, I visited Philadelphia with my family for the very first time. At the time, I was a senior in high school and 99% certain that the University of the Arts was where I wanted to spend my next 4 years. However, I had never been to Philadelphia before, as I was born and raised in Minneapolis, Minnesota, and I figured that it was probably a good idea to visit the city that I planned to pursue my higher education in. When I visited UArts with my family that year, the university was completely virtual due to the COVID-19 pandemic, and none of the buildings were open to the public. So the best I could do was walk up and down Broad Street and take pictures of the outside of the buildings and do my best to peer in and catch a glimpse of what could be inside. About 4 weeks ago, in July of 2024, I returned to Philadelphia after a brief visit home and found myself in an oddly paralleled experience. Once again, I found myself walking down Broad Street, looking at the outside of the buildings, unable to enter and doing my best to see what could be inside. The difference now, however, was that unlike 3 years ago, I knew what was inside, and further, who should have been inside. By now, I think it's quite clear that the abrupt closure of the University of the Arts has had devastating effects on so many lives in so many ways. From a student perspective, particularly one of a rising senior, it's hard to put into words just how big of a loss this is. The added fact that this is now the second time myself and many of my peers have lost a senior year, the first being due to the COVID-19 pandemic, is almost like extra salt in the wound. However, whereas the COVID-19 pandemic was completely unpredicted and unavoidable, the closure of UArts could have been, if not avoided, handled with much more care and respect for the community. The fact that I, like many of my peers and professors, learned about the closure through social media and group chats is frankly unforgivable. The day the news broke, my mind immediately went to my wonderful teachers and mentors, all of whom are brilliant artists that I deeply admire, and all I could feel was anger and deep sadness at the way they had been disrespected. It's now been a little over 2 months since the University of the Arts closed, and there are still many questions that remain unanswered. In the practical sense, I still am not 100% certain what this next year will look like for me. I have decided to complete my degree at Temple University, and I'm very grateful for the warmth, openness, and transparency in which they have received me and many of my peers. And truthfully, the communication from Temple regarding the UArts transfer process has been worlds beyond that of the UArts administration. However, it has not been, as UArts promised in many of their early communications, a, quote, seamless transition. Because I was not in Philadelphia when UArts closed, I was unable to attend any in-person events or orientations meant to help with the transfer process. And while there were some virtual events and minor communications from the university, for about a month, I felt largely in the dark. And even now that I've been back for about a month, I am still experiencing difficulties, largely with financial aid. I have had 4 virtual meetings and sent well over 20 emails to the financial aid office at Temple University because my merit-based scholarships and grants that I was receiving from UArts do not seem to be transferring correctly to Temple. And I am currently on track to take out more in loans to attend Temple than I've ever had to at UArts, even though Temple tuition and fees cost approximately $19,000 less than UArts. And I don't fault Temple financial aid for this, because everyone I've spoken with has genuinely been trying to help, but rather my frustration lies with the University of the Arts because it seems that some important information is missing that has resulted in this process being dragged out, adding more stress to an already stressful situation. Not quite what I would call a, quote, seamless transition. I am moving forward now because I have to, but that doesn't mean I forget what's been lost. I had plans for my senior year. I was cast in what was going to be the fall main stage musical. I had planned performances for the improv comedy troupe I founded during my sophomore year, and I had plans to produce my own musical review with friends and mentors. I was going to go to London and study at the Globe Theatre on the Winter Shore travel course. an opportunity that the brilliant faculty in the Braden School of Theater Arts worked on for years to establish for their students. I was going to prepare for and perform my senior showcase, my introduction to the professional theater industry, under the tutelage of my trusted professors and mentors. And it is true that potential opportunities and connections may lie ahead, but that doesn't take away from those that have been lost. Truthfully, the fact that the UArts community has lost so much while still not knowing what exactly happened is hard for me to stomach. It is hard to truly find closure when those responsible for this situation have seemingly faced no accountability or consequences. Instead, we find ourselves having to pick up the pieces of their mess, all while not even truly knowing how we got here. Money does not just disappear, and information does not just cease to exist. And to claim so is a slap in the face to all of the artists that made this university what it was. Artists are everywhere. They're on your TV screen and your favorite comfort show, and your Spotify playlist you play on the way to work, and the stories you read to your children, the logos of your favorite sports teams. Take a look around and you'll see something that's been created by an artist. Art is important, and devaluing it in favor of profit sets an example that we are disposable. If anything, the past few months have shown just how resilient this community of artists truly is. The arts community has been through a lot this summer, and there isn't a magic button to press and to fix it all and make it all better, but I think the least we deserve is true answers as to how this happened. Thank you.
Hello. My name is Bryn Smith, and I was also going to be a senior musical theater major, and I had a minor in music at UArts. I was going into my last semester of school with just 15 credits left to finish both my major and minor. I was on track to graduate early in just 7 semesters instead of 8. And I would love to share with you that I have fully prepared my plan for my senior year, and I know exactly what it's going to look like. But that would be a lie. I have spent this entire summer sending and receiving, feels like hundreds of emails to different people involved with different programs and schools. Finally, as of Tuesday, I am starting to finalize my plan for the fall, which begins in less than a month. But that had nothing to do with help from UArts or the seamless transition they failed to give us. I was given an incredible opportunity to spend my fall semester studying acting in London at the British American Drama Academy, and then I will come back to Philadelphia in the spring to take my remaining couple of classes and receive my BFA at Temple University. This was only now made possible because of the unimaginable amount of kindness and generosity that I have received from administration at Sarah Lawrence College, BADA, and Temple University. They felt that after everything I had been through at UArts, they wanted to make sure that I had a plan to finish my education that I could be excited about. The reason this plan took the entire summer to work through is because of the failed promise by UArts to help relocate us to new universities. Due to a lack of information, schools like Temple are just now receiving and being able to process financial information from UArts. And I didn't know how my scholarships and financial aid would transfer over, which was the final piece of my puzzle. And it is by no means the fault of any of the people and programs I have been in communication with. Because UArts gave no warning to anyone, including the schools that are now a part of the Teach Out programs, these schools could not prepare for the influx of students and information they were going to be communicating with and taking in. The people I have emailed and spoken with at all of these programs have been working harder on behalf of UArts students than anything our board and president did. All departments are working as hard as they can to figure out things for us, but they simply couldn't prepare the resources necessary to admit and add so many students to their programs before our closure. The process of researching schools, reaching out to programs, submitting applications, and figuring out my plan this time around has been so much harder than it was when I was a senior in high school. I can confidently say this has been the most stressful summer of my entire life. Additionally, it feels like a much bigger and more difficult decision because I know wherever I end up will be where my degree is ultimately from. When I committed to UArts, I knew that if it wasn't the place for me, I would have the option to transfer and find a school that would be my fit. Now, I do not have that luxury. I am so close to being done that I won't have a chance to transfer, no matter if it's my fit or not. Wherever I go from here will be the school named on my Bachelor of Fine Arts. I committed to UArts based on a gut feeling that it was where I was supposed to be. I had never seen the school or been to Philadelphia prior to move-in day, but I knew that it was where I was supposed to end up. And it was probably the biggest risk I've ever taken, but it was worth it. If I could go back in time to being a senior in high school, choosing where I could go to college, even now, I wouldn't change a thing. 3 years I got to spend at UArts were the most incredible years, and I have never felt such a sense of belonging as I did at UArts. And that had nothing to do with the institution itself. It was the people that were magic. The incredible people I got to work with, professors I got to learn from, friends I made, and the art I got to see and be a part of. That was the UArts I loved. That's what made this whole experience so much harder. But in the words of J.J. Milne and Winnie the Pooh, how lucky am I to have something that makes saying goodbye so hard. But now, even if some miracle happened and UArts reopened right now with a new board and president, I don't think I'd go back. I could not confidently put my trust or money in an institution that has treated me and the people I love so terribly. I've never felt more disrespected than I did when the board canceled our promised town hall meeting 10 minutes before its scheduled start. That was the moment I realized that it was never about the art or any of the people for those running our school. To them, it was about the money they could get from us. And honestly, I could never forgive them for just throwing away every incredible member of the faculty and staff like they were disposable. The professors I had at UArts are artists I look up to and admire, and it disgusts me that there are people who would treat them like they meant nothing at all. They are what made UArts worth going to. More than I was worried about what I would do next, I was worried for my professors who had established their lives, careers, and families in Philadelphia, and who had lost their jobs completely out of the blue. I hope now that our students are finally getting settled and ready to attend our new university, that the same openness, kindness, and help will be extended to the amazing staff and faculty from UArts to help them find their new paths. When we found out about the UArts closure, I was in Disney World. I was at the happiest place on earth, shaking and in tears, talking to my mom because all of the plans I had for my future had been stripped away from me. I'm a planner. I don't do anything without having a thoroughly thought-through plan first. I had already set my goals for what I wanted to accomplish at my last semester at UArts and how that would prepare me for the real world. But the scariest part of all of this, and the thing that I kept repeating to my mom, was I don't know what I'm going to do. At the final community rally on June 7th, I was standing at Hamilton Hall, listening to the speeches being given, feeling a sense of community, and I was waiting for movers to arrive to move me to my new apartment closer to the University of the Arts that no longer existed. There was some sort of poetic cruelty about that. I had packed up my entire life into boxes to move closer to a university that didn't exist anymore. We watched the people in charge fail us time and time again, and we deserve better. My professors deserve better. We have a right to know what happened to the millions of dollars they receive from us students every single semester. Life continues to go on, and we all have to keep moving forward to new jobs, new schools, and new versions of our lives. But we can't stop demanding answers. After everything we have been through at the hands and mismanagement of UArts, we have the right to know what happened and to hopefully hold people responsible for their actions. And I know we will all be okay. We will persevere and find new places to land, but I'm not excited about it. I moved to Philadelphia specifically to go to UArts, and now I'm just hoping I found the right school to attend in a few weeks. I'm being resilient, not because I want to be, but because I have been left with no other choice. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Brittany Mallon, and I was a rising senior illustration major and a print media minor at the University of the Arts. Some of you may have seen a few of my sketches that documented the first court hearing of the UArts closure in the Philadelphia Inquirer. Before I continue, I just want to thank the United Academics of Philadelphia Union for giving me the opportunity to share my part of this disaster. I unfortunately saw some of the signs that something wasn't right throughout this past year. Between UArts selling buildings, shutting down programs, and combining programs, something just wasn't sitting right with me. But I thought that they would hold out for one more year. The immediate closure of UArts caused my future to no longer be a straight path. I was forced to find a university that has an illustration program equal to or better than UArts in about 3 weeks. Very few schools even offer illustration programs, and even fewer have really good printmaking facilities. So that left me with very few options, and a very short amount of time to decide where I wanted to transfer to complete my degree. I also happened to renew my lease for my apartment on May 1st. So while it would be easier for me to stay in Philadelphia to complete my degree, since I already have my apartment, I've decided to transfer to the School of Visual Arts in Manhattan because I feel that they are a better fit for me and will provide me with the opportunities, resources, and facilities I need to complete my senior year and become a successful artist. This means that I'll have to move back into my parents' house, even while I'm still paying for my apartment for the rest of the year, because breaking my lease is the same price as splitting it with my roommate for the rest of our lease. I was also left unemployed with the closure of UArts. At the end of the spring semester, I had accepted 2 teaching assistant jobs for UArts' summer pre-college program in July, one for a screen printing class and one for a character design class. I had decided to accept these jobs despite the little money it paid, with the intention of getting professional experience and the potential of getting hired back after I graduated next year to teach the screen printing pre-college class. I was also supposed to continue my work-study job as a print shop monitor in July as well. Between having to continue to pay for my apartment and not working a majority of the summer, I'm going to be struggling to pay my student loans throughout my senior year. Leaving Philadelphia also means that I will have to leave behind all the friends and the connections with faculty members and the communities that I've spent the last 3 years making behind, and start over completely at a new school. I'm scared that I won't get the same opportunities my senior year as a transfer student. So much of an artist's success relies on the connections that they make, specifically in school, and I unfortunately will no longer have those connections at the school I'm transferring to. This past semester, I also had the opportunity to work with Mark Touche and Daniel Fishel to design a mural for the University of the Arts' new school store. Over 4 months, I worked tirelessly on creating a mural that represents the creative community of UArts. I was supposed to complete this project over the summer, but now it will never see the light of day, and I will never be compensated for the work that I completed. Participating in art marks run by the Traditional Media Club at UArts were some of the best memories I have there. I would share a table with my best friend Cass, and we would go hang out and sell our work together. I was supposed to be president of this club next year, and now that won't happen either. I was excited to start my thesis and to be a part of the annual Eli Thesis exhibition next year. I was looking forward to continuing to work with amazing faculty such as Kevin Mercer, John Rydford, Ralph Gagari, and Daniel Hertzberg. The teachers are truly what made UArts an amazing place and worth achieving a higher education despite the price tag. Their guidance, advice, and resources are invaluable, and my heart immediately went out to the faculty when I found out that UArts was closing its doors. Philadelphia has a rich history of art and is a community filled with artists and patrons of the art and is full of inspiration. The University of the Arts was one of the first schools to have an illustration program. The loss of UArts not only directly impacts the illustration community, but contributes to the loss of a creative community where artists across all fields can come together and collaborate. The avenue of the arts is dwindling and affects America as a whole since Philadelphia is one of the main hubs for the arts. With the closing of PAFA, DCAD, and UArts, institutions where young aspiring artists can go to learn and hone their craft are disappearing, slowly pushing the arts out of creative communities such as Philadelphia. The University of the Arts community needs to and deserves to know what has happened. Why did they close so immediately without any notice? The students and the faculty should not be the ones paying the price for the Board of Trustees' mistakes and lack of communication. We need answers. Thank you for your time.
Thank you all so much for your testimony. Sorry to hear what you experienced, especially listening to the senior year experience, both in high school as well as the collegiate level. It's heart-wrenching, but we also appreciate you for making yourself vulnerable, because at the end of the day, I know folks think that we know everything that's going on. We really don't. We only know what you tell us. And to be able to put a face to some of the stories that we've read and heard about really weighs heavily on us and puts us in a position to be able to advocate for some of the things that you recommended today. So thank you for your testimony. Chair recognizes Councilmember Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair, and thank you for the courage to be here and to tell your stories. You know, we received a lot of emails from students in similar situations, and it's different when you read it in an email than when you hear it when you're testifying in your voice and what it means to you and what had happened to you. It's unacceptable to be able to have a university act in this way. You know, yes, we need to find answers. Yes, we need to try to help you transition and go through these challenges and find your space in arts and culture, because Philadelphia is a great arts and culture city, and we need people like you to be in Philadelphia to keep it thriving. And so we need, as a city, also to step up and do the things necessary to find the answers. And finding answers is not going to solve the problem, right? But what it can do is prevent it from happening again. And this happened to you, and what you're here to do is you're even being selfless in the sense that you don't want it to happen to anybody else. And that's something great that you're doing for the arts and cultures world here in Philadelphia, but it says a lot about your character and what the University of Arts meant to you. You know, we reached out, we've been talking with Temple, and they have had some challenges getting information from University of the Arts, to say the least. And you mentioned about the illustration program. Temple has now created a degree in illustration that they never had before. And they've been trying to do the best they can, just like some of the other universities. And we all need to step up, though. We all need to know how important this is, and to the students, but also to the faculty and staff. And all of you guys have mentioned how important it was, the faculty and staff at the University of Arts were. You know, when you have an arts and culture institution that is so important to the city of Philadelphia, to be able to say one day it's one of the reasons why you're proud to be a Philadelphia, and the next day it's not there, it's unconscionable, right? And we, as our colleagues had said, maybe we as a city need to really not only hold people accountable, but to be on the watch for things like this in the future. You know, these institutions who run, they're part of the city of Philadelphia, we partner with them, but they run sort of on their own. And maybe we need to do more work, and we'll work with the administration to see what that is and how that looks, what their bylaws are, and what we're allowed to do and not allowed to do. But it's really important from this challenge that we learn from it, and then we make sure that it doesn't happen again. And your testimony today, and believe me, I heard from a lot of your roommates, and if you still have challenges with your landlords, and we've been trying to partner people who are looking for space with people who are leaving, and trying to fill so maybe they could, you know, sublease their space out. If you want to reach out to my office, we have a bunch of students that are doing both, that we're trying to coordinate with, and then also working with the landlords to see if they could discount some costs when people need to leave. But again, this is thrusted on us, and we want to make sure you know that we as a city care about you. We care what you do, and we're proud of you for being here today, speaking up not only about yourself, but about the future of the culture of the arts in the city of Philadelphia, and that means a lot. So thank you for being here, and we really appreciate your testimony. And continue to reach out, continue to advocate, and continue to hold people accountable until we get answers that we deserve, all of us. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Thank you. Hold on. Thank you, Councilmember. We appreciate your remarks. We appreciate your leadership on this issue and really going over and beyond the call of duty as it relates to supporting students and faculty who have been dealing with this unfortunate catastrophe. Are there any other questions or comments from members of this committee for this particular panel?
Just wishing them good luck.
You got to.
Thank you.
We're going to remember you.
Yep, and Disney World is the best place to be.
Thank you all. Thank you for your testimony. We appreciate it. Thank you for being here today. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the next panel to testify before this committee today?
Yes, can we please have Jasmine Jang, Quinn Baradell, and Nathan Renner Johnson?
I'm Quinn Baradell.
I am Jasmine Jang.
And I'm Nathan Renner Johnson.
Good
Good morning. Thank you for your time to hear about the impact that the UArts closure has had on our city, our region, our nation. My name is Quinn Baradell. I'm one of the co-founders and co-artistic directors of Pig Iron Theater Company, and I had been an associate professor and program director at UArts until a few months ago. Pig Iron has been in partnership with UArts since 2015 to offer a master's in fine arts in devised performance as well as a certificate. We've been making original plays in Philadelphia since 1995, and during our nearly 30 years, we have collaborated with dozens of UArts alums, faculty, and students. None of the founders of Pig Iron are from Philadelphia. We all came here, we made our lives here because this city offered such an arts hub. It has been a great home for us, largely because of the artists that we've encountered and because of UArts. And what has been lost is tremendously profound. It has been a hub, a magnet, and a center of the creative life of this city. UArts brought people here and kept them here. At no point during our 9 years together did I ever think the university would close its doors without creating some sort of plan to honor the students' enrollment agreement, that they would complete what they started. We just heard the impact. We have 21 current and 14 future first-year students without an easy path to complete their degree that they passionately crave. Our program is unique, and there's no easy teach-out plan, and none have been offered. At no point did I consider that our relationship, Pig Iron and UArts, would abruptly come to an end, with UArts owing Pig Iron $300,000 for expenses incurred to run the program, a nearly insurmountable amount of money for a company of our size. Imagine yourself as a 27-year-old emerging theater artist with one more semester of your MFA left, or as a 31-year-old international student who had been welcomed to the US and Philadelphia with future global exchanges on your mind, or as a faculty member with 13 years of teaching under your belt, a child in college, and the sudden need to find another income stream despite having 25 years of professional artistic experiences under your belt, a Pew Fellowship, etc. These are the bright lights that have been greatly dimmed. The stories are as unique as the art that they make. Our field is often uncertain. We sign on to that to some degree, but we don't sign on to board neglect, financial mismanagement, or disregard for the value that we bring to the city. This hearing is a chance to remind you and the city's caretakers that a deep investment in the arts is essential. It is attractive. It brings people here. And with this collapse of UArts, important questions need to and are being asked about how this happened and what can be done to rebuild what has been broken. Your concern, your investigation are crucial, and we hope there is a way to save UArts, preserve this legacy, support Philly's artists, and ensure a vibrant future for the artists and creative life in our city.
Good morning. My name is Jasmine Jang, and I am the Managing Director at Pig Iron Theater Company. You just heard from my colleague Quinn about what our organization is facing in the wake of the sudden closure of the University of the Arts, about the 21 students stranded mid-degree and offered no equivalent teach-out options because our graduate program is unlike any other in the region or even any other in the nation, about the $300,000 in reimbursements owed to us by the university that are now delayed indefinitely, about the sudden dissolution of a 9-year partnership that was key to our business model and the fulfillment of our mission to train the next generation of daring performing artists. In spite of Pig Iron's nearly 30-year history of producing world-class art here in Philadelphia, in spite of the outsized impact of the Pig Iron School, which has produced 140 alumni who have gone on to win Obie Awards, receive Pew Fellowships, teach at prestigious universities, tour internationally, and even found their own companies here in the city. In spite of the fact that we did nothing wrong, Pig Iron is now facing an existential threat as we work to find a new institutional partner so that we can fulfill our commitments to our students, faculty, staff, and community. These are unique challenges, but Pig Iron is not alone in our concern about the ripple effects this closure is going to have on Philadelphia's creative sector. Already, we have seen brilliant artists and educators, formerly employed by UArts, forced to take their families and their talents out of this city. We have seen potential students, employees, and business partners hesitate to make Philadelphia their destination amidst this instability. We have seen the once bustling Avenue of the Arts, the heart of Center City, become a ghost town. The arts are key to connecting our communities, making our neighborhoods safer and more vibrant, and driving our workforce and economy. In the greater Philadelphia area, the economic impact of the arts totals $4.1 billion per year, and the return on investment in the arts is high. In fact, each and every arts ticket purchased leads to an average of $50 additional spent into the economy. All of this is in spite of the fact that Pennsylvania ranks number 33 in state arts funding, with only 85 cents spent per capita. For reference, in New York, this funding is well over $5 per capita. On behalf of all of the artists and arts nonprofits impacted by the UArts closure, we urge the city to make sure that this moment is a canary in the coal mine rather than a harbinger of doom. This is our chance to talk about and invest in the future of the arts in Philadelphia. We thank you for your tireless work on this investigation. As you untangle this unprecedented and unconscionable series of events and search for answers, we ask that you keep our vital, one-of-a-kind arts scene in the conversation. We ask that you consider increasing dedicated local arts funding to include us in efforts to revitalize and beautify the city, and most pressingly, to ensure that the now vacant UArts buildings are repurposed intentionally and thoughtfully, and not just sold off to the highest bidder. From artist housing to professional performance venues to cultural co-working spaces, the arts community has a number of proposals to make sure that there are still the creative hubs and gathering spaces that are key to the vibrancy of the city. A more detailed list of these proposals has already been shared with Councilmember Squilla and Councilmember Landau. I am regularly blown away by the resilience and the adaptability of artists, by how much we can achieve with very little. I am even more excited, however, by the thought of how much we can achieve with your support. Thank you.
Hello. Hello. My name is Nathan Renner Johnson. I'm an executive director of Philadelphia Scenic Works, which is a nonprofit that works with arts organizations, primarily theater companies like Pig Iron, to produce mission projects that advance their missions. And from within this work, I've seen firsthand how the ecosystem for arts organizations has deteriorated over the years, and how the pandemic drastically exacerbated this deterioration, and how vital University Arts was to supporting arts organizations and the arts ecosystem in Philadelphia. The University of Arts provided a crucial pipeline of artists to the city. It provided reliability for the artists who worked there as faculty and staff so that they could live in and around the city while developing art of their own. It provided stability to other art-making organizations like Pig Iron, and it provided venues to create work, rentable studios, performance spaces, and it created a vibrancy on and around South Broad with 1,500 plus people learning, working, patronizing local businesses. And without the University of Arts, the city has a really big hole to fill. And to be clear, the arts are really crucial to our city. Arts promote tourism, they bring patrons and their wallets from the suburbs and beyond, and these patrons don't just spend money on the arts, they spend money on restaurants and shopping and parking and bars. And the arts activate streets and neighborhoods at off hours, with the performing arts particularly offering year-round events at night that promote public safety and vibrancy. And over the past 40 years, Philadelphia has evolved into a destination city with a wonderful restaurant scene and a leading arts and cultural community to go along with its great recognition for history and sports. And the Wilmus Tony Award this year, which is the first of its kind in Philadelphia, is just one recent proof point. However, as evidenced by the closure of UArts, we're slipping backwards, not moving forwards, and UArts is just one example. Someone before mentioned PATHA ending its degree granting program. We lost 11th Hour Theater Company during the pandemic, which is a community asset and a lead producer of musicals. They new musicals. There are many other theater, opera, dance, music organizations that are offering less and less programming year over year, reducing staff sizes and struggling to stay alive in this post-pandemic economy. And we now have an opportunity at this moment to decide whether UArts is the tipping point on a downward spiral or an inflection point towards a stronger, more collaborative, sustainable investment in the arts. You know, when your house burns down, you don't just build it back the same, you build it back better and fix the problems. And while we certainly all want clarity and accountability for what happened in the UArts demise, I strongly urge the city to also look forward, to take advantage of the opportunity to be big and bold in imagining how the UArts real estate and other assets can be used to support the arts and to do so in an even stronger way. There are many fantastic ideas on how this real estate can be used to support artists, one of which that I'm going to talk just shortly about is a centralized arts hub that can capitalize on the collaboration between arts organizations and artists and small businesses using buying power, economies of scale, and shared resources. This hub could have shared spaces such as work studios, rehearsal halls, performance studios, film studios, music studios. We can have shared support services such as back-end office management, marketing, graphic design resources, metal, wood, paint shops, costume shops. And we can reduce material and financial waste through shared material libraries such as raw crafting building materials that are used by fine arts and rentable items like props, scenery, costumes, which can be used by film, photography, theater, music, opera, ballet. I know this might seem like a lot of different ideas, but the crux is the way in which these are all incorporated and can collaborate together. For example, the reuse of materials works so much better in a hub where people are, because there's built-in inputs and outputs for materials. Arts organizations who use support services can easily pull from materials libraries, and when we're done with the projects, they can put them back into the library for other organizations to use. Less shopping around, less buying off of Amazon.com, sending money out of the city, less waste at the end. A hub is also ideal for educational purposes because students have the opportunity to work on lots of different projects for lots of different arts organizations all over the city, collaborating in one space. And there are already organizations that do this kind of work on partial or smaller scales that have skills or infrastructure that are able to scale. Obviously, my organization, Philadelphia Scenic Works, is collaborating with dozens of other theater companies and arts organizations to provide services around the year-round, resources, workspace, while simultaneously offering training and education. But there are other organizations. Resource Exchange and RARE are two fantastic organizations offering two different models on how to reuse materials that enable artists to reuse old materials and divert waste from the landfill. Interact Theater Company around the corner is hosting many different performance spaces in their performance companies in their space each year. And efforts like these contribute to Philadelphia's economy by attracting artists and tourists, creating jobs, promoting public safety, and positioning the city as a leader in sustainable arts practices. But it's only on a small scale. And with strategic partnerships, collaboration, and investment amongst organizations and with the city, the UArts closure, I think, can be a point to be morphed into a real asset for the city, not to just continue what was already there, but to build upon that, improve upon that. The skills, ambition, passion all exist, and we just need the partnership and the vision of the city leadership to make it happen. Thank you for your time.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any further questions from the committee? Seeing there is a question from Council Member Mart Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. Nathan, I gotta say, you spoke fast. You had to really pay attention, and thank God we had it in writing. But I like the ideas. Every challenge brings an opportunity, right? And it's hard to see an opportunity in the University of the Arts closing. But I think we, as a city, and with all our brilliant people that we have here, have to look at what opportunities do we have to not only solve this problem, but then to try to grow the culture of the arts in these buildings, in the institutions. How do we repurpose them or use them for student learning? And there's a lot of conversations going on. There's a lot of people here that couldn't come testify today because there's still ongoing conversations and there's investigations and things that are happening that they can't really speak about. But they need to hear these things too, right? They need to hear, what opportunities do we see? So when we're putting these plans together to incorporate these type of things into that plan, where if we're going to reuse these buildings, to me, these buildings always have to be University Arts buildings, no matter if it's a merger with anybody or whoever there, it still has to be, to me, we have to remember the University of Arts, and it has to be part of the arts cultural hub in the city of Philadelphia. So whatever plan we come up with at the end needs to include that. But I think repurposing it, seeing what we could use it for, what other opportunities we have, is an important reason why to have this hearing, right? Because if we just sit here and just talk about what happened and then we find out what happened, but we're not solving it for the future or reusing it for what the purpose and what the mission was for the University of Arts, right? We have to keep that mission alive. And we have to make sure the institutions, like we said, with Temple creating new degrees for those things. Again, it's not the University of Arts, but who knows, maybe it'll call Temple University at University of Arts or something, or whatever other organization is merging here. But they have to be willing too to give up something, right? Like, this is not just a monetary, a commitment from Temple, right? And you receive students, and so you're getting more tuition. But it has to be, if it's Drexel, some of the other universities that we're talking with, if they're coming in and saying that this is also, we don't need to make a profit on this. This is something that's an institution here in the city of Philadelphia. It's a brand, it's a name, and it's really something we need to build. So hearing from you guys today is really important for us, and also to share with all these negotiations are going on, and making sure that we as a city whatever those final agreements are, could weigh in and say, yes, but they have to be used for these purposes. They have to be part of the University Arts legacy that was so important to us here in Philadelphia. So I really want to thank you for testifying. I want to thank you for giving some additional ideas. And feel free, you and your friends and your networks, anybody else you know have other ideas, other ways to merge these organizations, other ways to merge universities, other ways to, from what I'm hearing too from the students, there's universities that have art programs, but not what the University of the Arts had, right? How can we incorporate whoever that merger is? How can we incorporate that into that new program, whatever it looks like, right? And how can we add these features to whatever happens in the future? So again, keep up the great work, keep sending emails and coming up with ideas of what we could do and how we could make the city whole again after this debacle. But I just think that with your talents, your ideas, it'll help us as a city help the final decision-making process as this plays out. And hopefully it gets to a place where we could say, you know what, this was devastating, but something did good come out of this, and the legacy of University of Arts will still be here forever. So thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Squilla. Are there any other questions from members of the committee for this panel? I do. The chair recognizes Councilwoman Nina Ahmad.
Yeah, thank you so much for your creative perspectives on how to rise from the ashes. I don't know if there is one already. Is there a task force already constructed around this, which would have feedback from people like you, people like your young students, and with other institutions to not just for the accountability and to know what happened, but going forward, maybe with our office, I don't know what Val's office is called, who just
Arts and
testified,
Culture
including the bigger sort of membership nonprofit that, sort of the alliance. I think this sort of behooves us to have that kind of a perspective to vet out best practices, good ideas, because the other important thing is the property, is what's going to happen with that, and that keeping an eye on that is really important. So I would highly recommend, and we can talk later offline, about what that creative panel a task force can look like, and who participates, and how we have everybody's voice there, but really to come out with action items, right? It's great we are all talking, and we do a lot of this in council, but having outcomes from this is going to be critical because, as many of you and people before mentioned, it is driving our economy. We're already in the hole for many things. So if you have no humanitarian interest in this, one should have an economic interest in this and look at that intersection. So I will look forward, maybe we can talk and see how something can come out of this. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilwoman Nina Ahmad. Are there any other questions or comments from members of the committee for this panel? Thank you. Seeing none, Mr. McNagle, thank you so much for your commentary today. Appreciate you all. Seeing that there's no more questions for this panel, Mr. McNagle, will you please call the fifth panel that we have to testify on resolution number 24601.
Can we please have Mark Campbell, Christina Matei, and Bradley Filbert?
Thank you so much for being here today. Can you please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony? Beginning with the first person who was called.
My name is Mark Campbell, and I'm a former faculty member, program director, school director, and college dean at the University of the Arts.
My name is Christina Matei, and I am a former faculty at UArts.
And I'm Bradley Filbert. I'm a former adjunct professor and the executive vice president of United Academics of Philadelphia.
Thank you.
I was at the University of the Arts from 1996 to 2023, and I was also on the search committee in the summer of 2015 that concluded with the hiring of former President David Yeager. I wanted to come here today to speak, to join with others in strongly advocating for the discovery process and full disclosure of the circumstances surrounding the closing of UArts, a process directed especially toward the apparent abdication of the fiduciary responsibilities of the senior leadership and the board. I make this plea to our public representatives and to the community generally. I consider full disclosure to be our collective ethical responsibility, and I ask all persons involved to support the discovery process. This includes members of the UArts board, such as it remains, as well as any legal entity representing the university during the transition period. And here are my reasons why. As others have stated, the long history of UArts, its place in the cultural life of Philadelphia, and its cultural heritage stand as self-evident reason to seek a full accounting. Add to this the sudden nature of the closing, something that has drawn national, even international attention. Imagine the impact on students, staff, and faculty, hearing of the immediate closure on a Friday night on the last day of May. It was like a catastrophic act of nature, an earthquake where suddenly everything has changed. Given this, we owe all who have been severely affected a rigorous discovery process. And as personal stories tell it best, I would like to tell you that my wife, Laura Frazier, a member of the union bargaining team, had just received her hard-won promotion to associate professor at UArts weeks before the announced closing. As we know, these processes are years in the making, with many, many responsibilities required of faculty who are standing for promotion. Laura also, Laura's also received the President's Award for Distinguished Teaching, giving her commitment to her students. And this was announced at the last UArts commencement, what turned out to be the last UArts commencement. Imagine the relief and joyous sense of accomplishment and contrast it with where we are now. There are other compelling reasons for what I'm asking. In order to fully consider senior leadership's abdication of fiduciary responsibility, we need to take a hard look at the previous administration. So I'm looking past President Kerry Walk, who served for 9 months, to former President David Yeager, who served for 90, through June of 2023. Does anyone doubt at this point that during those 90 months there was an elaborate shell game being played with university finances? All at the service of costly, self-aggrandizing capital projects intended to support the narrative that David Yeager was a successful president. No one can argue with capital improvements unless it means diverting money away from other critically important concerns like financial solvency. But few knew at the time that the university president was playing a high-stakes, high-risk gamble with UArts' future. At the breakfast on the morning of this year's commencement, a senior staff member sidled up to me and said, "Davis put us in a really bad place financially, and I didn't know about it. I didn't know about the real cost of the capital projects, and I have emails to prove it." I can add this claim to my own experience and those of many others, as a lack of transparency was a hallmark of the Yeager presidency. After all, transparency requires trust, respect, and a communitarian sense of collaboration. Given the radically centralized form of governance during the Yeager's administration, the former president made all decisions, at least for those concerns he knew of, from major financial decisions down to what tiles to be used in the Hamilton Hall bathroom renovations. What follows is that former President Yeager would or should have known of the true state of university finances. The absolute lack of transparency kept most others from knowing. It goes even further than that. Apart from concealment, there was a counterfactual narrative propagated, externally and internally, of unprecedented financial solidity and fundraising success. Just pull out your phones and search for the $25 million gift to UArts, or the $67.2 million capital campaign that concluded in fiscal terms just recently. The two are related. In both cases, information was apparently manipulated to create the impression that the money was real and in the coffers, and that the president should be credited, even for a gift committed in 2007, 8 years before he arrived at UArts. This branding of success, not to be confused with successful branding, might have cleared the way for significant raises to senior staff and the university's top earners during the difficult COVID years, including and especially former President Yeager and the VP for Finance. Check out the ProPublica posting for the disturbing details. It is clear that the propagation of this counterfactual narrative greatly increased the severity of the closing's impact on all concerns. If these claims are true, in whole or part, then the former president, with a few on the board and in senior staff, his gang of 4, prioritized a false narrative of presidential success over the actual state of university affairs. A fair accounting, as stated, is an ethical concern. And in legal terms, it is how we choose to engage with one another. It could also have material effect, as all employees should receive compensation, not only for work completed, but given the contractual agreements and certainly the counterfactual manipulations, all should rightly receive their due severance as each person attempts to imagine and build their new future, suddenly and in the immediate moment. From a personal perspective, I grew up in Mayfair and went to Lincoln High because they had a vocational art track. I don't mind telling you that my mother was senior class president at St. Hubert's during World War II. I've lived most of my life in Philadelphia. I was married in City Hall, and my heart belongs to the city. I am also a UArts alum. I clearly remember, after taking the Market Frankfurt L, walking down Broad Street, going to my portfolio review as an 18-year-old. My oil painting was still wet. Of course, I wanted to be cool, so I glanced at my reflection in a storefront window to check it all out. I thought I looked about 10 years old, but what can you do? What I remember most clearly was then asking myself a question as I walked on. I wonder what will happen to me. What did happen, as it did to so many others, was a transformative experience, something well beyond an 18-year-old's expectations. So I want to say finally that my heart belongs to UArts as well, and to the many people, including teachers, students, friends and colleagues, past and present, who made that vital world. Thank you.
Good morning. My name is Christina Mattei. My name, check, 1, 2. Check. That's how we musicians do it. My name is Christina Mattei. I moved 3,000 miles 1 year ago from Los Angeles, where I was a music producer, professional, curating studio at Max Sennett Studios. I was a Recording Academy voting member for the Grammys. I spoke on panels for Women in Music, Apogee Studios. I performed solo works with orchestras, debuted works in Central Park, and I have traveled around the globe making work. I left Los Angeles 1 year ago. I spent my entire savings as a single mother, providing fully on my own, to teach at University of the Arts, to work with this very prestigious, respected university. The staff was so devastated. They were dedicated at the time to shift gears into advanced music production and art education. I was honored to be there. There is nothing like the heart of Philadelphia and the art and music scene here. The staff was 150% dedicated. I was working with the dean, Kevin Hayden, and Donna Fay, and the director, Michael Johnson, who brought me here to help create an innovative future development that aligned with current trajectories in music, art, and business that no other university had. No other university had such innovative thoughts on interdisciplinary work and where the commercial world was going. I've lived in London, I've lived in New York, I've lived in Los Angeles. I'm really respected in what I do. I teach part-time at Berkeley. Nothing exists like the University of the Arts. I've uprooted my entire life, and my son, who's right there as a single mother, to live here and build here because of this city and the heart of this city. I worked countless free hours preparing programming for the 2024 and 2025 school year for the university to shut down. This has greatly affected my son, who's with me today because I can't afford childcare for this summer. I am sleeping on my couch as a grown woman and renting a room in the apartment that I live in now in Philadelphia to cover rent and make sure food is on the table. This abrupt closure is real. I spent my whole savings to move here for this university. I have former students that are coming over to work with me on solo work because they don't have any resources. I'm the one with a studio in my home that I'm currently sleeping in. Because the school is now closed, they are broken, they are depressed, they are lost in what to do, and I've opened my doors to them. It's the best that I can give. In history books, there are two things that are remembered: war and art. Look in this building. Look at the intricacies on here everywhere. It's art. Can you imagine this being gone? The founding artistic historical culture that has put Philadelphia on the map is gone. There was no place like UArts with such drive and passion and talent. It needs to be preserved, respected, and brought back to Philadelphia. The legacy it has provided for this city, the people of the city, the art communities, the school, the nonprofits, the educators, it's essential. There's a very real devastation financially happening right now. I'm hearing lots of long-term perspectives of how to do better, but I am not hearing anything about the devastation that we are experiencing now. Literally the food on our plate and the amount of teachers that are out of work and like, where to go, what to do, no funding. Because all the grants that we were going to be applying for were partners with the University of Arts. That's why we were here, building our work as a community together. In Europe, they consider artists professors like surgeons. They are respected like PhD surgeons. We are surgeons of the soul. And you just took that from Philadelphia. Where did that go? This is unjust. We deserve justice. The artists, the city, the teachers, the families affected. We need justice now. We need help now. Thank you.
Good morning for about 5 more minutes. My name is Bradley Filbert, and I'm a former UArts adjunct professor and the executive vice president of United Academics of Philadelphia. UAP is a metro-wide AFT local that's worked since 2013 to unify and support over 15,000 higher ed workers in the Philly area, including in 2 chapters at UArts. Our UArts faculty chapter formed in 2020 and won a first contract after 3 years of negotiations. Our staff chapter colleagues were still bargaining when UArts closed. Throughout, these negotiations were defined by failures of transparency from UArts administrators. Just this November, then President Kerry Walk compared the risks of transparency in our negotiations to the kind of panic that instigates a bank run. She spoke of the university's hidden structural deficit, which, to address, would require boosting enrollment and fundraising. By April, it was clear that first-year enrollments exceeded expectations and that the last fundraising campaign had surpassed goals by $17 million. Nevertheless, 2 months later, 700 of my colleagues and I were laid off in a 7-minute Zoom webinar. Our collective bargaining agreement contains provisions on financial crisis, layoffs, and severance, as well as rights in any merger or acquisition of the school or its programs. As a union, we're using every means available to us to account for the university's refusal to meaningfully bargain following the closure. A cabal of high-level administrators created this catastrophe over months and years. They now rely on silence and obfuscation to escape justice, but they must be held accountable. We know concerns about structural financial problems extend back to last fall at least. We are aware of liens and financial agreements affecting the school's assets, but we need a complete picture of the university's finances and how they got in such a precarious state to help workers get what they are legally owed. We've received no notice to date of any bankruptcy filings. We ask the council for help in furnishing this information by exercising its oversight authority of the Philadelphia Authority for Industrial Development, which issued bonds on behalf of UArts. We also ask the council to subpoena key current and former administrators to compel their cooperation. Former presidents David Yeager and Kerry Walk, former finance vice president Stephen Lightcap, and current board chair Judson Aaron have avoided public scrutiny for too long. We are united as a union to fight for justice. We need the council's aid in getting the answers that will help us win that fight. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee? We're going to recognize Councilman Mark Squilla, and I'll come back around to others.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. On the part of the, I guess, the investigation part of what's going on, has this information been shared with the Attorney General?
Yes.
It
The
has.
information's in the Attorney General. The information is in public filings. The information has also been helpfully put together in a piece by David Merle at Philly Magazine that came out this morning.
And Mark, I know you had some information too, you said about previous president. Was that information also shared with the Attorney General, do you know?
I'm not sure. It is being covered in today's article as well by David Merle.
Okay. All right, just, I mean, because that is an ongoing process, and yes, unfortunately with our hearing, when we first wrote the resolution, we have to state that we would subpoena folks in the resolution, and we didn't do that at that time. So when we did reach out to folks to testify, they weren't compelled by subpoena in order to be here. So that's why some of them weren't here. Some of them would not testify anyway because of ongoing negotiations and lawsuits. So if they did testify, they would say that we're not able to say anything during the current litigation process. But this hearing is, when this hearing's over, doesn't mean we're done. So, you know, we will hopefully, at the end of this call, have the hearings left to the chair so that we could reconvene again the more information we get as the investigation continues, and that knowing that the challenges that you face, all of you, are being heard, and we do also want answers, and it has been silent and it has been quiet. And when we ask questions, there are no answers, right? So when the investigation, and when we talk to the Attorney General's office or some of these other parties, there's only so much they could tell us too, even though we're the elected officials. So knowing that we're going to keep pressuring this for accountability purposes, but we're also going to say, where do we go from here? How do we, first of all, protect this from ever happening again? How do we recreate somehow the University of the Arts? How do we reimagine it? How do we do that? How do we have programs like your program, Christina? Is that something, if there was a new merger of sorts or new organization that came in and took over and kept the University of the Arts name, is that something that you would still like to create and keep this
Yeah, it's
program?
needed for society. There's literally nothing that exists in terms of future education in an interdisciplinary way with the technologies of music and just all the art technology shifting so fast. There literally isn't a place. I mean, there's universities attempting to do it. People have offered me jobs and I'm just like, I don't want to move there again. You don't have the resources to do it, and it's not a thriving city that I'm passionate about. There's New York, LA, Philadelphia. This city has it. You just need to keep the buildings open so that we can continue it,
And that's our goal, is hopefully to get to that point where you keep them open, but the goal would also be whoever does that would be able to have the resources necessary, or maybe the city and the state, because the governor's office is involved. The mayor has been very actively involved, right? And we have philanthropists and other people who are interested. But how do we then incorporate something like some of the programs? And like I said, we heard Temple has created a new bachelor's program, but it's not the same, right? So how do we then incorporate something like that into whatever happens, whatever comes of the properties, and how we reimagine them?
I mean, a thoughtful solution. I mean, someone like Kevin Hayden, who was the dean, Donna Fay, Michael Johnson, the people running the show there, those are the only three people that I was working closely with, but I know that there was a whole team of people that were working towards that. And with overhead being like, no, we can't change this, we can't do this, that's too much money. / why do you think your enrollments are low? Because you're not listening to your deans, you're not listening to your directors, you're not listening to the staff. So if you brought those people in a position of power, you could really change the whole trajectory of this city in a really good way.
Thank you for that.
Thank you, Councilman Squilla. The chair now recognizes Councilwoman Maru Landau.
Thank you so much. I'll be brief. First of all, thank you so much for all of you for being here. I'm not a member of the Education Committee, but wanted to be here in person to hear all of your testimony, because it's so heartbreaking about what happened to the students, to the faculty, to an institution that has been so important to Philadelphia. My mom attended the Philadelphia College of Art, the precursor to the University of the Arts, and so I've seen firsthand how important this institution has been throughout Philadelphia's history. And I appreciate so much, Christina, hearing you talk about the unique nature of Philadelphia's arts and culture community. My mom's an artist. I wish it trickled down to my hands. It didn't. I do have it up here, though. And I hold you all in that high esteem that you talk about. I think you are all just magical people in whatever ways in which you can express your art. I really am so impressed by you guys. You're like you're super unicorns, and it's just so amazing to have you all in Philadelphia. I can promise I will work so hard with this committee and with Councilman Squilla to do everything we can to make sure that we keep as many of you in Philadelphia and kind of reimagine this space with all of your input. I agree this should not be top down, this must be bottom up. You are the people who know the most and the best about what is needed here, about how unique your crafts are, and we will do everything we possibly can to right this wrong and to elevate all of you. So thank you so much for being here.
Thank you for that. I would say that, as we're going through this, it's important just to keep in mind that the University of the Arts is not a brand or a logo, right? It's the people, right? And it's 700 faculty and staff members who now have no jobs, no prospect of severance. They need to be made whole so that they can continue to strengthen the arts community, as opposed to, the abandonment that they're currently facing.
Thank you so much, Councilwoman Rulandau. I just want to quickly just add that, the Moore College of Arts is still here in the city of Philadelphia, and there's a way in which we can further, partner with them among some other universities that might be interested in that space. That could be a potentiality as well. And then also, there are several offices in the city that can provide job support for a lot of the professors, just letting them know things that we can do to support you as you transition into new opportunities. Now, hopefully it would be with us that we can figure out where we can go, but hopefully Temple University, I know, has a couple of individuals that are there supporting a lot of professors there. So hopefully we can figure that out. But we want you guys working. We need you here in the city of Philadelphia. Thank you. All right. Seeing there's no further questions for this panel, we want to thank you. And Mr. Clerk, Mr. McNagle, could you please call on the next panel to hear resolution number 240601 to testify?
Yes, can we please have Angela Rikers, Madison Claus? We're going to jump a little bit and also add in Rose Reeder.
Correction for the record, his name is Mr. McNonigal. I love it. This is great. Thank you. Sorry about that. All right. Thank you so much for your presence today. Please state your name for the record and proceed with your testimony.
Hi, I'm Madison Klaus.
Hello, I'm Angela Rikers.
Hello, my name is Jan, Jon McKay.
Good afternoon, and thank you for hearing our statements today. My name is Madison Klaus, and until June 7th, I was a full-time staff member at University of the Arts in the School of Theater. I was a member of our staff council, serving this past year as the vice chair, and I am also a member of our staff union, serving on the organizing committee. In addition to being a staff member for 3.5 years, I am an alum of the School of Theater, having graduated in 2017 with a BFA in musical theater. My husband, Sean, and I were married just this past January at St. Luke in the Epiphany, which is right around the corner from Juniper Dorms, where he and I were RAs together my senior year. Sean was also an adjunct faculty member for the School of Design. In the dozens and dozens of conversations that I have had in the months since the Inquirer informed us of the imminent closure of the university, I have been asked lots of questions. One question that is always asked is, did you know? Did you have any idea? And the answer is a simple yet resounding no. That Friday, May 31st, our fall 2024 production assignments were sent out for at least 5 anticipated shows. We had finalized the course schedule, and I had registered our dozens of incoming first-year students for their classes. As we headed into the summer, there was a general sense of both excitement and relief that maybe we all finally had a real handle on things again after the tumultuous time of the pandemic. I was also really looking forward to the staff union's contract being finalized by the start of the academic year, especially since it had been over 2 years since we voted to unionize. Another common question I've been asked is, what are you going to do next? And I honestly don't know. The best part of my job was working with young artists in Philadelphia, and the University of the Arts was a rare and special place. Many of us who were working at the university are now facing limited options, some of us pondering complete career shifts or considering moving out of the city in order to find jobs in arts higher education. And that's the scariest question that I have for myself. What is going to happen to Philadelphia now that UArts is gone? This city has been my home for 11 years, and I love it. I don't want to leave. I want Philly to continue to be a vibrant, diverse, thriving city of art. I'm here to ask City Council to help hold the Board of Trustees accountable for their actions. We deserve the severance we are legally owed by the University of the Arts. We deserve answers about how and why the university closed in the manner that it did. Thank you.
Hello, and I do want to thank the council for hearing us today. My name is Angela Rikers. I was program director and associate professor of graphic design at UArts since 2018. Prior to this, I worked in editorial magazine design as an art director in New York for 25 years. I was the art director of Harper's Magazine and also of the Oprah Magazine, and about a dozen others along the way. I taught design at 5 New York City undergraduate and graduate programs as an adjunct, and I write about design and typography for many design-related print and online publications. My experience with UArts up until this June was completely positive and fulfilling. At this point, I had taught at nearly half a dozen other schools, and I liked UArts and its students the best of all. It had a wonderful culture of support, creativity, collaboration, dedication, and, I'm going to say it, love. Kindness was considered a virtue, and it was in abundance. The students and faculty helped each other all the time. I loved my job. When I heard about the UArts sudden closing, of course I felt very bad for myself, as one does, but I also immediately thought, what about our students? So throughout June, the deans and program directors of many of the schools counseled students individually over Zoom. I did this work while I was away on vacation that I had planned in March, because I could not imagine leaving students to hang the way the university left us, the employees and the faculty, to hang, with no information or resources. My son was a UArts music business major, 1.5 credits away from his diploma. We don't even know what to do with that. So to me, this is the greatest shame here, exposing young people to such a massive failure of adult responsibility, lack of communication, and support. By closing the university in the shameful manner that it did, the administration made a mockery of our communal beliefs about caring for others and set a terrible example for students about behavior in the adult world. Program directors spent all of last year doing admissions and outreach, which was not technically part of our jobs, but we wanted UArts to succeed. I traveled to Florida in a snowstorm. I traveled to two-year colleges in Bucks County, Delaware, and New Jersey. I went to high schools and design programs. I attended portfolio review days in New York and Philadelphia. I invited high school students to lunch to help them learn more about our graphic design program. Some applicants sat in on courses to meet our students and faculty, and our students were unfailingly helpful and kind to them. In short, we did everything we could to ensure the success of UArts because we really believed in it. So, apart from the personal and professional disappointment, the impact of the UArts closure on me personally has been that I sold a 10-room apartment in New York where I had lived all my life, where both my adult children lived, and where all my friends and professional contacts were. I bought a house in Philadelphia, thinking that I had a job that would take me through retirement because I had a contract of employment ending in 2030. So apart from the other financial hardships, I now have a mortgage and no income, and as of the end of this month, no health insurance. Our students are quirky and talented individual artists with so much creativity to contribute to this city and the world, especially in the world of templates and AI. They cared about design, but more importantly, they cared about community and each other. So many current and former students reached out to me with concern for how I was doing, even in the middle of their grappling with their own situation. A couple of our graduate graphic design students' final capstone projects were for the benefit of Philadelphia communities, including a program to seed bomb vacant lots with native grasses and wildflowers, and a branded proposal to bring a motocross track out, to build a motocross track out on unused land near the airport so that the kids who ride ATVs and dirt bikes around Philadelphia streets would have somewhere better and safer to go. So the loss of UArts means that such beautiful projects by young people will find homes elsewhere, in other communities and other places, not here in Philadelphia. And that's the real loss. Thank you.
Yes. Jesus, I'm sorry about that. I just had to take all that in. My name is Jan Hakeem McKay. First and foremost, I'm a servant of Christ. I am also the grandson of the late Barbara L. McKay, who retired a City of Philadelphia juvenile social worker. I'm currently the president of and founder of Life Outside the Streets, where our mission is to treat trauma through arts, education, and information using brain health. I'm also a graduate of Girard College, which was founded by Stephen Girard, who died the richest man in America and donated the money to build Delaware Avenue and tear down all the wooden houses in Philadelphia and build brick houses. He also donated, Girard College. And when yellow fever came here, he opened up, and all the capital moved to D.C. Him and the mayor stayed here, and basically nursed those that were dying, and kept the city alive and bailed America out 2 times out of his own pocket when George Washington needed the money. I say those things to say that America and I myself and shout out to Girard College. We have a unique experience with dealing with situations like this, and this is an opportunity. And as an organization, the first thing I want to say is my condolences to all of the students and staff for your loss with the University of Arts as we formerly know it, because a loss is a loss, and that's grief. And I want to extend services and support to the students. And I didn't come here to plug that, but that's what the people need. You understand? We cannot overlook that. That's the first thing we got to do to stop the bleed. You understand? Like, I heard that they were getting counseling, but I would even move as one of the ideas to fund and save the University of Arts. The city of Philadelphia, I have confidence that they would step up and provide those services, those counseling services, and the monies to provide those counseling services. And if they were to work with an organization like mine or somebody else, but with mine, we would dedicate at least half of that to the organization, and that bill of therapy is more than enough to keep the arts open. So that's just one idea. But let's get to my notes. In my notes I have here, I'm here as a concerned citizen and a community advocate. Love has a transformative power to heal, build, and attract the resources needed to accomplish any task. I learned that from Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King, in the Bible, of course. Offering counseling services and condolences is the #1 thing we need to do. We also need to raise funds to supplement the income in housing and education for the students and staff that are impacted. So raising the money, for the university to stay open is one thing, but the immediate thing to stop the bleed right now is to take care of that. And I'm confident that the city of Philadelphia and all of us here, we can do that quickly. The University of Arts in Philadelphia's mission is to advance human creativity, which it believes is a vital skill for success in today's society and a catalyst for social and economic change, which we heard over and over through the testimonies here. And I think that, when you look at the climate of the city of Philadelphia and the violence and everything in Philadelphia, we don't have to do much more research to, stand on that. Again, our mission at Life Outside the Streets is to treat trauma through arts, education, and information. God laid Life Outside the Streets on my heart after I graduated from Girard in 2002. And I recognized that, even though Girard College is smack dab in the middle of Philadelphia, the difference between me and my loved ones and friends and family and the citizens of Philadelphia was simply a curriculum. Not simply a curriculum, but but in addition to having a safe space to learn, but the curriculum. And that's when I created Life Outside the Streets to bridge that gap, to basically create a Girard College for all of Philadelphians. I say that to say, in high school, one day I was a troubled student there. I wasn't the best student. I wasn't this model citizen that I am today. And one day I was the only person in detention. And the person that was running detention, he actually had an audio-visual department, and he had me help him with this film, and instead of sitting in detention. And now fast forward, you know, you guys will learn a lot more to me. That day that I was the only person in detention, audio-visual and the arts became my safe haven, and it transformed my life. And throughout my career at Girard, you understand that audio-visual or the Girard Educational Technology Service Department became my safe haven. Whenever I would get kicked out of class or leave out of class, I would go there. And upon graduating, I started Manny Strong Records and Life Outside the Streets, which is a vehicle of the arts to save my community and lead my community. So I wanted to give my testimony of, you know, how the arts saved my life. Now let's get down to business. We need to raise money, you know, and I know we have that here. So I would argue that if we were to call on organizations like Live Nation, Rock Nation, NBC, ABC, CBS, Fox, CW, the Leocor Center, Wells Fargo, the Dell, all the theaters and entertainment venues, the Philadelphia Police Department, the City of Philadelphia, the state level, the governor, the President of the United States, the future President of the United States, Kevin Hart, Meek Mill, $1 million worth of games, Gilly the Kid and Wallow, Jay-Z and Beyonce, Philadelphia sports teams, the University Arts, current students and alumni, the Department of Behavioral Health, DHS, the School District of Philadelphia, the Girard College Estate, the Philadelphia Tourism Department, the City Commissioner and the Real Estate Department, fellow universities, schools, and colleges, and the Freemasons of Philadelphia to raise money to save the University of Arts. We will have the funds today. I gave that short list because they are all direct beneficiaries of the arts. I would argue, and I would even move to call for an audit to see how many members are that professionals are actually graduates or that came through the University of Arts that work now inside and all around these organizations. I heard earlier another part of my proposal to save the arts was an increase in the dual admissions program, because if you have a dual admissions program or a greater one, because I didn't know if you guys had one or not, but having a greater one, I would imagine that allow the city funds towards high schools and our students to actually add to that and make things a lot more fundable, because we know our grade school students probably get a lot more support from the state and federal levels than universities and things of that nature in a different way. I also believe that calling on the current students and alumni and the University of Arts to launch a corporate positive marketing campaign. I'm 40 years old, I turned 40 this year, all glory be to God. But I grew up with campaigns like Be Cool, Stay in School, Say No to Drugs. And there is actually zero corporate marketing positive messaging campaigns. And I believe This Is Your Brain and This Is Your Brain on Drugs, and those campaigns is why my peers and demographics aren't so strung out on drugs. And I believe by creating that and listing it as a fee for service that the University of Arts does, if the City of Philadelphia had to pay the University of Arts in partnership with Life Outside the Streets or anybody to do that, again, that will be a way to raise funds, because this is something that the city needs. And just other arts and visuals, one of the things I brought with me was signage around how to deal with a mental health crisis. I created an infographic for that, because everywhere we go on SEPTA and all across the city, we know people are having mental health crises, but there's no signage or steps or awareness to deal with that. So that signage campaign in itself, as a fee for service with us hosting it, will generate the funds we need to keep the school open. And lastly, fundraising concerts and exhibits that feature current and alumni students work at partnering venues and institutions will quickly give us the funds that we need. Just one concert, and particularly Jay-Z came here after, basically causing violence in our city and causing division back in 2000. He came here and was throwing concerts down in our city and raising millions of dollars. So we already know that concerts and things can raise money, and they're going on each and every day and week in our city promoting violence and destruction. construction. So if we can just take a step back and use those same venues to do something positive, we will not only save the University of Arts in Philadelphia, but we will save all the children and families of Philadelphia. That's my time.
Thank you so much for your testimony today. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee?
I do.
Okay. Dr. Nina Ahmad, Councilmember Dr. Nina Ahmad.
Thank you. I'm sorry I missed. I was trying to listen at my desk, but I'll just ask questions of this young man who had a plethora of ideas, and we should pay attention to many of them. This conversation around putting maybe a panel or a task force together, I would love to see you part of that if that happens. Make sure we have your information. I wanted to just ask you, did you say you are from an organization called Life Outside the Streets?
Yes, that is an organization I founded. It's Life Outside the Streets.
Is that part of Girard in any way?
No, that's an independent 501c3.
Okay.
It was inspired by my experience at Girard.
So I think regardless of what happens next, the fact that people are thinking outside the box is what I want to commend you for. And there's a lot of people remaining to be made whole, right? People who have bought their house, who have leases, of all those things. So I don't know if there's even an effort to have a sort of a fund to address some of these immediate needs that people have been put into economic crisis because of this. I mean, I come from a tiny country called Bangladesh, and there was a concert for Bangladesh when the country was fighting for its independence by the Beatles. So you mentioned Jay-Z, I know the Beatles. And people know, that branding is a lot why people know the name of the country. So branding matters, messaging matters, and I think an outcome from this kind of a hearing is something more tangible. What could that be is up to discussion, but I really commend you for bringing all these ideas to the forefront and saying there are many, many stakeholders who could, if they wanted to, transform and make a fund to support all the folks who are impacted. And maybe this is a conversation with our unions, to have other unions join in. You know, there's a whole host of things that could be immediate response. And I thank you for highlighting mental health care. I don't know if you know, there's a new urgent care that opened up by the Office of Behavioral Health that people can walk in to get support. So that's the first one. But I think your thought about giving care to people who've been impacted by this, because this has a huge psychological impact, and I hope we can work, if people need support, through our Office of Behavioral Health to support many of you. But thank you again for your detailed testimony.
Absolutely. Can I say one thing in response to that? The one thing I want to say is, with all due respect to that urgent care center, Life Outside the Streets actually launched the first urgent healing center that does that independently. We don't get as much exposure to publish that, which is basically on that same model, but we did it virtually, and we also had a space. But I also left out two industries that I know we can get support from, which is the churches and masjids of Philadelphia and the Freemasons of Philadelphia. And then lastly, you know, as a behavioral health student at the city of at CCP, adding behavioral health to education and brain health to education, hence Dr. Daniel Amen, who has developed a practice around healing the brain using SPECT imaging. You understand, I just think that on a proactive preventative side, adding that to the curriculum at the University of Arts and across the city is a thing that, you know, on a long, you know, on a extended, you know, prevention plan that I would like to propose. And I just would like to close and what I was supposed to open with is prayer. And I just pray that, you know, the Lord, you know, softens the heart and prepares the hearts of all those that's involved to expedite, you know, healing Philadelphia and getting this matter dealt with. In Jesus' name we pray. Hallelujah. Amen.
Thank you. I'd also like to briefly acknowledge the presence of former state representative of the 195th District, Donna Bullock is here today, and now the Executive Director of Project Home.
I'd like to quickly share that there has been a relief fund organized through the union, and so that was community members helping community members. It would be really helpful if we could get the money we were owed from the university as well. So.
Thank you so much. Are there any further questions from members of the committee or comments? Oh. Councilwoman, the chair recognizes Councilwoman Ketsi Lozada.
I just want to thank everyone that joined us today. I appreciate your taking your time to come share with us how you've been directly impacted. And I want to just acknowledge Councilmember Squilla's leadership on this issue. It's always a learning opportunity when you're leading different discussions. And so I just want to say that I'm grateful for that. I look forward to continuing the conversation and trying to figure out, how do we support students and their families and their path forward? How do we ensure that this doesn't happen again in any of our institutions? And how do we support teachers in figuring out how they also are made whole and how they don't give up on the profession of becoming teachers because we haven't been able to figure this out as quickly as they need in order to continue to provide a quality of life for their own families. And so I appreciate all of the testimony, and I look forward to continuing to work together to figure out how we address all of those who have been impacted by this. Just wanted to make sure that I said thank you to all of you.
Thank you. I echo those same sentiments, and I thank the rest of the committee as well. Echoes those same sentiments. There's no other further questions from members of the committee or comments? Okay. Thank you so much for your testimony. Hearing, excuse me, hearing none, I want to thank all the panels and witnesses for their participation today.
Wait, we have another panel.
There's another panel?
Yes.
Okay. Mr. Clerk, can you please call the next panel for resolution number 240601?
Can we please have John Levis, staff, Michael Grothison, and Sam DeHart, and I apologize if I butchered any of those.
You can state your name for the record, okay? State your name for the record.
My name is Sam DeHart.
My name is Sarah MacDonald. I'm here for Michael Grothusen, who had to leave for a doctor's appointment. You have his testimony in writing. I'll be happy to read this for him, or I know your time is running. This has run a long time.
Mr. McMonagle is going to share all written testimony for the record. If you want to say a few words, you can. You don't have to read the whole thing.
Yeah.
It's up to you.
Yeah, please state your name for the record and proceed. Thank you.
Well, you have his,
We have that,
his
yes.
document, so.
Okay, thank you. Sam?
Only you. Thank
Sam?
you.
Thank you. Good morning. My name is Sam DeHart, and I'm former staff. Working at UArts gave me a sense of purpose and connection as an activist and artist. I loved the work I did for the university as an IT professional and as a member of the staff union bargaining team. I am angered and hurt by the university's sudden closure and am dismayed by its treatment of the university community, the UArts community. Thank you for the opportunity to speak here today. I was employed by University of the Arts from January 2019 until May 2024 in an IT department with the title of Business Analyst. During the course of my employment, I experienced discriminatory behavior by management in several forms. This included withheld training, isolation of work, refusal to acknowledge or use pronouns, and subtle and overt derogatory comments regarding gender and race. In one particular occurrence, a supervisor made a racially charged joke within the context of a spontaneous introduction to former President Yeager. In several instances, I experienced confidentiality and physical space violations that did not stop after repeated requests and discussions. I did not know who to trust and felt isolated from coworkers. This caused severe stress and anxiety. After filing for reasonable accommodations in response to and attempting to have discussions regarding a new supervisor's preferred schedule, I was disciplined and ultimately quit due to the stress. A report was filed with HR in 2024 regarding management's behavior, and this was also raised at a high level during a DEIA committee discussion that occurred in 2022. In the context of having a complex PTSD condition, undergoing gender transition, and working towards an autism diagnosis, I found my experience of working at UArts to be damaging on multiple levels. I am here today because I seek to understand what occurred with the UArts shutdown as I seek closure and healing from this experience. I'm here today in solidarity with the union and former coworkers as we all navigate next steps. The value of what this community lost with the sudden closure of the university cannot be quantified or measured. The UArts community deserves wholeness. This city deserves wholeness and answers. Thank you.
Thank you so much for your testimony. Are there any questions or comments from members of the committee?
One question.
Yes. The chair recognizes Councilman Mark Squilla.
And Sam, during this time, was there an arbitration, or did you deal with human relations or anything about these challenges at the work site?
I reported this to HR in 2024. Prior to that, I didn't know who to trust because it involved the former HR director, AVP. It involved my supervisor who became the AVP of IT. It involved the president. The Title IX coordinator worked for the president. Who do I talk to? It took me 5 years to get to be able to write this.
Obviously, it's in the past, and it has, but in the future, too, human relations is great. The city has a human relations department also to get help. Also, the union probably has some other areas where you could get additional help or at least seek arbitration or at least put a grievance in against the supervisors at that time. But we never want to see discrimination in any way in any institution or in any job here in the city of Philadelphia, and be willing to help in the future.
Sure.
Thank you.
I concur. Are there any other further questions from members of the committee? Questions or comments? Thank you so much for your testimony. Mr. Clerk, are there any other panels or witnesses for today?
Mr. Chair, there are no further panels, but we did receive written testimony from Jennifer Mulcahy, Sarah McDonald, and Eugene Bolt, and Anika Abel, and an anonymous impact statement that we also submitted for the record.
Thank you, Mr. Clerk. Those will be submitted for the record for today's hearing. I want to personally just say thank you to all who came today and testified. This is really, really important. And are there any members for public comment today? Okay, thank you. There being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify, I will ask that there's anything else that anyone wants, any other panelists, right? We're good. Hearing none, this concludes.
One comment. I'm sorry.
Oh, one public comment.
we
Hearing there is a public comment. Councilman Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Chair.
Chair recognizes Councilmember Mark Squilla.
Thank you, Mr. Chair. As we heard today from the devastation that has happened to the students, staff, and members of the faculty, and really the city as a whole, it's really important for the board of directors to hear that, and we would like to send a transcript to them, to the board of the University of Arts, so they are hearing exactly what we're hearing. And there is a fiduciary responsibility to that board, and there is an ongoing investigation. I just wanted to read one other statement from Temple, who we've been reaching out to, a lot of the institutions who are making these so-called seamless transitions that aren't really seamless, but transitions for students, and that Temple had said that the faculty and staff have been working to try to make the transfer of the students as seamless as possible. Temple's goal is to start, has been to make transferring as easy as possible. On the same day as the closure, Temple announced and launched a website for students. They made it clear that it would transfer as many credits as possible to ensure the students track for graduation. So far, more than 300 former and prospective UART students have committed to enrolling at Temple this fall. Faculty and staff are working hard as students to complete their degrees. UARTS transfer students who choose to live on campus will find support. Temple Dean of Student Affairs has worked to create 2 floors of housing in Johnson Hall and Hardwick Hall. To date, nearly 70 former UART students have been assigned to live there. That number is expected to grow. In working to accommodate UARTS transfers, Temple has developed a pathway for students to finish their studies. This fall, Temple Tyler School of Art and Architecture will launch the Bachelor's of Fine Arts in Illustration. The program will accommodate more than 30 transferring UART students so they can continue their education in illustration. Temple faculty and staff have worked to find ways to ensure UARTS has been complicated and still getting information from UARTS. Temple will try to continue to do their best to make this transfer possible. We want to thank Temple and other institutions for their work and care, knowing that it's not completed yet. We still need more help and support, and we want to make sure that this hearing will continue to call it a chair so that as we get more information and as we could hold more people accountable, that information will be disseminated to everybody who testified here today. Thank you.
Thank you, Councilmember Mark Squilla. There being no further questions from members of the committee and no other witnesses to testify, I will ask if there is anyone else, the final ask, present in this hearing whose name we have failed to call that wishes to offer testimony on this resolution being considered today, Resolution 240601. Oh, Council President Johnson has joined us, and he would like to offer a few comments.
Yeah, I just want to stop past first and foremost. I want to thank my colleague, Councilor Mark Squilla, who hails from South Philadelphia. I want to thank him for his leadership in addressing this issue, and I just want all of you to know that as the Council President, I will work in partnership to support all the efforts of Councilmember Mark Squilla to address your issues and your concerns. So I thought it was very, very important for me to come past and express my support publicly, and also have a special interest in also making sure that we address the issues of the workers. From my understanding, the workers organized with their union and also did a deal with the University of the Arts a couple months prior to all of this unfolding. And so we want to make sure that the workers there are made whole, but also we want to work in partnership in making sure that the students are made whole, as well as being supportive of the negotiation that's going on with Temple University. And so I just want to stop past, show my support. But again, Councilmember Mark Squilla, thank you very much for your leadership and stepping up to the plate and making sure we're addressing this issue.
Thank you, Council President Kenyatta Johnson. Thank you. All right. Hearing no further questions or comments or witnesses being present, this concludes the business before the Committee on Education. We will now recess this hearing to the call of the chair. Thank you very much for your attendance today.